Welcome to the Norris Group Real Estate Podcast, a show committed to bringing you insights from thought leaders shaping the real estate industry. In each episode, we'll dive into conversations with industry experts and local insiders, all aimed at helping you thrive in an ever-changing real estate market, continuing the legacy that Bruce Norris created, sharing valuable knowledge, and empowering you on your real estate journey. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a newcomer, this is your go-to source for insider tips, market trends, and success strategies. Here's your host, Craig Evans.
The Norris Group is proud to present our 18th annual gala, I Survived Real Estate, at the Nixon Presidential Library on Friday, September 12th. Since 2008, our event has raised well over $1 million. This year, we'll be raising funds again for Make-A-Wish, OC, and IE. Individual tickets are available now. To get your tickets, go to isurviverealestate.com, click the link here in the card. We would like to thank the following platinum sponsors: UDirect IRA Services, the San Diego Creative Investors Association, Douglas Brook Homes, MBT Productions, Realty 411, and DBL Capital. Welcome back, everyone, to part 2 of the I Survived Real Estate preview show. All right, so this question is for the both of you also. And now you guys have both different perspectives right now, because you're obviously a builder in, active, working every day. Bruce, you're, I don't believe that that real estate investors ever retire. They just kind of.
I'm not retired yet. I'm still unloading 12 houses.
Yeah. So you have different perspectives. So here's my question: what do you think the most pressing question is on the minds of investors that are showing up to I Survive Real Estate?
Well, there's
Is that only one question?
Let's just start with one, and then we'll,
Well,
go ahead, Bruce.
I think it's so easy today to get misled by a website, YouTube, and have people that have no clue what they're talking about use percentages as saying that this is turning into a disaster. Foreclosures are up 87%, which mean they went from 1 to 1.87, not even as a percentage of the volume of sales, that type of thing. It's a true statement that's very misleading. There's a guy that I really like his data, but he's all in kind of on that, and he uses percentages all the time, and he believes that's a correct thing. This is the worst downturn since 2008. Well, there hasn't been one since 2008. So, okay.
So the next one's the worst one.
Yeah, it's a correct statement that's totally meaningless. Totally meaningless. I'm in escrow with 4 properties right now. So, somebody wants this stuff. And anyway, I think that's the biggest problem that wasn't around before. Can you imagine if it was around in 2006 and 7?
Whew. Well,
I mean,
what's 1,800%?
But I think it allows people to gain an audience. And I even think that they think they're correct. So I think the biggest concern is is this going to mimic 2008? Okay. Well, it's missing something. It's called foreclosures. People have loans at a 2.5% and 3.5% that make their payment less than rent. And they didn't borrow a bunch of money, so they have huge equity. So let's say you lose your job and you can't make your payment, you'll sell it and you'll walk away with a few $100,000, and it isn't going back to the lender. So to think that that's going to be catastrophic. So let's go to a subject where Craig is much more expert at than I. There can be other bundles of properties that have stress. One of the things that we can do is that, we can take a look at inventory, let's say, of people that are 80 years old. In Florida, they own a lot of real estate that's going to get passed on in chunks. So anyway, there's always something, but by and large, if you think this is going to replicate 2008, it is not.
So their biggest question is a crash coming? All right. So
That's right.
Craig, what do you think? You're talking to different types of people. What do you think the biggest question of investors is going into I Survive Real Estate?
Well, I think it stems more around the unknown and as Bruce said, the misdirection and misconception of what's out there. Bruce was talking earlier about 2008. If we look back, social media started with MySpace back in like early 2000s, right? By 2010, Facebook had started, was kind of the prevalent social media, but it was just everybody showing a picture of themselves and talking, right? And what is social media now? I mean, look at some of the stuff that's out there. How many people look to social media for their news? So you're talking about what was taking place in 2008. You were still having to look to news to get that cycle of what was going on. Now, let's look at what's happened. The gentleman here in Southwest Florida that's a realtor that's done 84 transactions in 7 years somehow gets quoted by the Wall Street Journal, and he's now supposedly the expert of Southwest Florida, and the entire world thinks that Southwest Florida is imploding because of one gentleman that's done on average of 7 transactions a year, and most of those were land transactions at $30,000 to $40,000 a piece. I mean, this. So what I'm getting at is, so many people are confused and don't know what is going on because they don't know where to get their source of data, because data is coming from everywhere. And just like Bruce said, it is the aspect of this next crash is going to be the worst since 2008. Well, it's a true statement, because there hasn't been one. So like we're saying, that's a true statement, but it doesn't mean anything, right? So I think what I'm really excited for this year with the panel that we've got and the announcement that we're going to be making at I Survived Real Estate of what's coming, I think we're going to be able to provide a lot of clarity for people this year. I think we're going to be able to get in and answer and kind of stabilize the mood of clarity that people just are grasping for. What is all of the information that we see? What does it really mean? That's honestly my thought. I don't think it's just one question. I think it's more of I love Bruce's moodometer. What does it show? It's really about the mood of the culture of the buyers and the culture of the economy. And so when you look at that, and then we look at social media and the news and all of the stuff that's being said, it's clear that most of the people that are talking don't know what they're talking about. They get snippets of things, but they don't know how to correlate that and turn it into what's actually real and factual.
They have no history of the data. So they have this little box of data and think that's the story. Well, no.
Yeah. Zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
So, all right. So 2025 has been a weird economy, to say the least, and especially in the housing market. We've seen the market soften, stock market tank and recover, all-time highs, right? Yet it doesn't feel like we're thriving. The country doesn't feel like we're thriving. Inflation is hanging around, the uncertainty, even still with the tariffs. So we just talked about what you think is on the investor's mind. What do you guys personally hope to take away from this year's event?
I love their background. So the same thing. I have a background in charts for real estate. Doug Duncan would have that length of period of time dealing with recessions and things that interchange and play with that. So yeah, I've always enjoyed attending our own event because there's smarter people on the panel than I am. In those categories.
Half the time is, how do we solve Bruce's problems?
Oh no, thank you for saying that. That's funny.
That's what's great about this group of people. It's not like Facebook or Instagram where we're trying to show the best of us. We're willing to expose ourselves and show the worst of us sometimes and say, how the heck do we solve this? But we're not so arrogant that we think we all know it. And Bruce, through his wisdom of years now, has put together groups of people that come to speak in and pour in, and then are willing to also step back and say, I know a lot, but I may not know it all either.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, what you just said, the panelists started to go there. You know, each panelist had their expertise, and it's like, I know it. But all of a sudden, over years, it was sort of like, what did you just say? Wow, that's a cool twist, you know? And all of a sudden, truth and exchanges come out with the, you know, brightest brains, but each with an expertise in a different category where you could say, okay, what about this or what about that? You know, so yeah, it's been so much fun.
So you know, I'm anxious to see, Joey. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hide either. I'm anxious to see what, you know, Bruce, Joey and I put a lot of thought into who needs to be on these panels, right? What does this really look like? And with the year that we've had, and the amount of questions and the lack of clarity that is in the marketplace now,
The uncertainty.
yeah, I wanted to make sure that we've got people that have lived those experiences. So let's look at what you got. Like you just mentioned it, Doug Duncan, the amount of background that he has had in seeing inflationary situations and seeing crashes and all of the stuff that had to happen or that happened through those periods. He was at the helm of having to deal with that. You've got Dan Wallach. You know, he's CEO of Shepherd's now. Well, he was the CFO of 84 Lumber during 2008. And so you're talking about the number 3 lumber provider in the country, number 3 or number 4, and all of a sudden their receivables were now, they knew they weren't getting them. How do you work through just hundreds of millions of dollars that you know you're not getting because everybody below you is crapped out on you too? You've got, and then we've got we've got investors that are coming to the table that have lived life and can talk about scenarios.
Yeah, let me get to that right now, because
I'm still in the thunder.
Last year we had a great investor panel, tons of takeaway, great feedback. Probably my favorite moment of the year last year. But this year we've got an investor legends panel, and so this question is for Bruce. Bruce, can you give me your favorite Pete Fortunato story?
Wow, I'm blindsided by that.
Hey, you did. You're the one who doesn't want the questions.
I think Pete Fortunato, honestly, is one of my favorite people on earth. That's the best thing I can say about him. Yeah, he's got a lot of character. Flew across the country to be at somebody's funeral that, you know, was one of the people that we've known, and I was just like, wow. That's, you know, because I mean, he's 80-some. It's a little hard to get around, a little hard to get up to the podium because he made some. That's for Jack Fullerton's funeral. He goes from Florida to Orange County. Yeah, I just think, wow, this is a genuine human being, man. And he's always available. Yeah, that's what the Roney Ward was looking for.
Him and John Schaub wanted together in 2017.
Yeah, he's just. Forget about being a real estate investor as much as it's just a human being that actually really cares. No agenda. That's what I love about him. He doesn't need anything from anybody. He's just a true individual. What's kind of cool about when he teaches, of course, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't need to look at that book. And the best thing when you ever attend a seminar is the Q&A. It goes off. It goes off the chart somewhere else.
Well, you know, our investor panel this year is you, it's Pete, and then we have our old friend Tony Alvarez, who is really excited to pick my brain about my weight loss journey, but that's for another day. But why does Tony Alvarez stand out amongst investors?
Oh, it's his personality, I think. I mean, he gets people to do stuff. I'm talking about repetitive relationships. So he's in Lancaster. I meet him. He heard me speak. You know, it's kind of funny. It's interesting how things happen, and people recognize who the other person is because of what they did. So I was speaking in front of an audience, and there was a question about commercial real estate, And without batting an eye in front of 300 people, I said, I'm really not an expert on that category. So I'm the wrong person to ask that question to. Well, Tony was in the audience. That impressed him that I automatically just told the truth. And I didn't have to, I didn't play with it. So he came to meet me. Now, this was probably 2000 and, I'm sorry, let me think about when this was. Yeah, probably 2001 maybe, or 2002. And he owned 50 properties in Lancaster. And he came to me with this list. And he said, I'm going to be selling all these things. I said, really? Why would you do that? He said, why, it's gone up from where it was. And so that was our first conversation. I said, well, I own 93 building lots 9 miles from Lancaster, and I'm dragging my feet to build them. And he was like, okay, why? I said, because you're nowhere done peaking out. And so we talked about why that was. And what was the trigger for me was Lancaster was the number one destination in the whole country for migration. So if you priced out a U-Haul going to Lancaster, it was free. Going out of Lancaster, it was $3,000. Some crazy, or the opposite. Anyway, the opposite. So he listened and held on to his rentals. Now, when it got to the peak, now it's 2005, I'm selling these 93 houses. I'm calling Tony. I said, get rid of your stuff. You know what he says to me? What month should I do that? I said, no.
He's still mad at you because he held a couple of them. He sold a couple of them too early. He's like, I could have held out 2 more months.
He said he made $3 million extra dollars. So anyway, that's how I met. Okay. But one other thing. So I said about his character and personality. He had never spoken in front of an audience, but I got to know the guy and I really liked him. I liked who he was. And we had an event where I made him the last speaker. Mike Cantu said after me, thank God you put him not in front of me. Because Mike was still looking at his notes, reading basically. And Tony was just personable. Well, after a standing ovation that was 2 minutes, people lined up to hug him. I've never seen anything like that.
It was like an Italian deli. You needed a number.
It was crazy. I mean, people just love this guy. So anyway, yeah, he's a special guy.
All right, we're getting a little long here, so I'm going to wrap up with a couple last questions. This one's for both of you, and I'll start with Craig. All right, I get it why real estate investors want to come to our event, but give me your best pitch on why mortgage professionals and realtors should come.
Again, I think if you look at the group of people that are going to be on stage and the wisdom that they're going to impart, let me back up. I don't want to look at this as a meet and greet in a place that you're going to do 12 deals. Does that happen? Absolutely. People get in, they get to talk, and but what I've seen is that's really not what happens there, right? But for real estate professionals, for mortgage brokers, for agents to be there, I think they're going to gain an understanding of really more about what the market is doing. Again, I go back to gaining clarity in the market. I was talking with some sales teams from another broker's office this morning about this process, and they were dumbfounded that that's what we're putting on because they never heard of that. They'd never heard of something that is in what we're doing. And I think that so many industries like real estate sales, real estate brokerages, things like that, oftentimes they're very transactional in nature. And so they just go along with what's riding. But to be able to gain clarity on what the market's really doing, I believe that real estate agents, mortgage brokers can start to strategize how their business grows from there in an aspect to really change their business structure and how they do business based off the clarity they can receive.
Bruce, why should mortgage professionals and realtors come to this event?
Well, there's a gentleman that took our courses actually, and has come to the event all the time. And he was a realtor that got the 2006 California crash. Well, because he believed it, he called all the lenders before they had an REO. I said, you're going to get a lot of REOs and I'm your man. You know how many listings he typically had at all times after it hit? 900. I went to speak to his, where he was just one of the broker or one of the agents, right? I went to speak to his office. It wasn't his company, but he worked there. So they were giving awards. Okay. This gentleman has 37 closings this month. And the next two have one apiece. Now it's true. My dog is barking.
Aubrey, go lay down.
Yeah, lay down. What it does for mortgage people and for realtors is have them be able to look at charts and be in the next right position early, because that is a big deal. That is a very big deal, because once you have relationships, let's say with lender-owned properties, they don't replace you. You got the next 20. Okay. So, and there's just a lot of things you can know in advance and say, okay, I'm going to put myself in the right position, deal with the right people. So investors, wouldn't it have been really smart to deal with investors that could buy 50 houses like Tony Alvarez when the things were at a discount? Not very many people did that. That wasn't their niche, but how many thousands of properties could they have sold if they did it? So that's why I like charts. It gives you direction in advance if you know what it says.
Well, I think, Bruce, what you brought out of that is again, there's not going to be this massive REO, rush of that coming to the product. So how do realtors and mortgage brokers know how to strategize? Getting that clarity and learning that, I think, is going to be so crucial for them to be able to continue and push through these seasons of what's happening in our market.
Well, I think it's very valuable, because if you understand that, you're dealing with a buyer that says, I'm just gonna wait until prices crash. Well, that's really not a good idea. If you see the home you love for the next 20 years, you want to make an offer and go on it, because what you're waiting for isn't going to occur. As a matter of fact, and this is something that we'll probably get to talk about on the panel, but there's a couple of laws that gets passed. There's some serious game changing going to go on for real estate.
I was going to say, don't say too much.
I won't.
Don't say too much.
All right, you heard it here. Hey, all right. So I was gonna talk about legacy, but you guys have talked about that. That was gonna be my last question. So I wanna take a fun one. All right. So second and last question: if you can get anybody in the country right now to attend and be on the panel, who would be your dream guest?
Craig, go first.
Oh, wow.
Dream guest.
Wow. So this is an interesting one. And it'll probably seem weird, but I think one of you start talking about an institutional investor, who is it that you come to mind to, right? It's Warren Buffett. I think to have Warren Buffett on a panel like what we're doing, with as brilliant a mind as he is, I think would be a lot of fun to have someone like that on a panel, and not just because of his name, but because how he has looked at things in the economy year after year after year and been right.
Bruce, who would you be your dream panelist?
You know what? I'm gonna. This isn't a cop out. We've had him. We've had him for the last how many years? We've had our choice of people coming, and I really feel like we have the panel that it's who's who of our industry, character and different approaches, like Pete Fortunato. What's cool about Pete is who he is, but you present Pete Fortunato with a problem, it's 20 solutions pop into his head instantly, because that's where he goes. So anyway, I don't have a Warren Buffett in mind, but I just think over the years, we've been able to attract the right group of people that have different expertises and are willing to let their hair down and listen to the other people and contemplate, hadn't thought of that,
So I'll give you guys an opportunity to just give you your little last closing remarks, but I want to say something first. For me, I Survive Real Estate feels like a family reunion. It really does. I get to see people that we don't get to see that often. We don't do the club circuit as much as we did before. And we got to know a lot of people with our boot camps, with our events. And it really does feel like a family reunion every I Survive Real Estate. So that's what I'm really excited to see, all the people that are still in the game. I get to see all the old pictures of when it first started, and to get to see they've been coming for 18 years, some of these folks. So for me, that's what's most exciting, to get to see a lot of our old friends and a lot of great, good people that would literally give you the shirt off their back. So let's close with some closing remarks. Bruce, why don't you go first, and we'll let Craig finish it off.
I think my favorite thing about the event is there's no agenda other than the truth. There's no sales pitches and stuff like that. It's just like, we've just got the best people in the industry that don't do this for anybody else on a whole panel together, and they trust each other enough to bat it around. It just doesn't get better than that. It just doesn't.
Craig?
I mean, listen, it is an honor to carry on the tradition and the legacy that Bruce and Aaron started. So there's a lot of weight every time last year and now this year, and there's a lot of weight of prepping for that and things like that. But I take that with love and I cherish it. But as I said at the beginning, listen, all the stuff that we do in the industry is great. But at the end of the day, to have an opportunity to, as an industry, affect children's lives that need a touch at the most devastating time of their lives, I am unashamed at saying, if you don't have your ticket, go get it. If you haven't sponsored, go get it. And it's not about making money. We lose money on this deal as a company, and we will forever do that if that's what we do, to be able to effectively change kids' lives. So I am thrilled for September the 12th. Can't wait. I'm excited. I'm excited to see everybody. I'm excited to be around the greats of the greats and best of the best. But I'm excited to know that as a group of people, we can effectively change kids' lives. That's what I'm ready for.
Craig, Bruce, thank you so much for jumping on and doing our I Survive Real Estate preview show. So there you heard it. September 12th at the Nixon Presidential Library again. Come dressed to the nine and enjoy a great meal and some great information, and go give your old family members some hugs. All right, guys, thank you. That'll be all for this week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
I can't wear this shirt.
You can. I mean, you can.
I'll put it under my tux.
That's it.
Don't forget to visit I Survive Real Estate for tickets to the event on Friday, September 12th. The Norris Group would like to thank the following gold sponsors: Keystone CPA, the Inland Valleys Association of Realtors, Pasadena Phoebe, the North San Diego Real Estate Investors Association, LA South RIA, NorCal RIA, the Wizard of the Wobbly Box, Andy Teasley, Shepherd's Finance, the Thompson Group, Property Radar, and White House Catering. The dinner wine is provided with a generous contribution by Rick and Leanne Ross. Hope to see you all there.
For more information on hard money loans, trust deed investing, and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For more information on passive investing through the DBL Capital Real Estate Investment Fund, please visit dblcapital.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under the California DRE license 01219911, Florida Mortgage Lender license 1577, and NMLS license 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the hard money tab.